Yo, we back with another weekly analysis, man. And this week, I don't know, man. It might get crazy. You gotta look at it. You got a war in Iran and Israel. Trump just did what he did. We all know that. And the market's gonna react how they react. So we're gonna get right into this analysis and see how this week go. I am gonna be dropping a video soon. I think I might have said it in the last one. If I didn't, I'm gonna say it now. I'm doing a 3K to 100K challenge right now. And we gonna keep grinding on that. I made some good progress last week on some great setups. Missed some setups that I should have taken. Second guess myself, but still learning my entry setup. And now we're gonna go into our next week, and we're gonna do this analysis and see where we go from here. All right. So we're gonna start on our first chart right here. We got US 30, dirty 30. Now I love 30 out of all three of these pairs of the indices I trade. I like US 30 the most. Why? Because I feel like US 30 is the main character, right? These are like the sidekicks, right? So the main character gonna move, and these two gonna move with the main character. So 9 times out of 10, at least if I see a US 30 setup, more than likely the US 30 setup just gonna hit. These might have a setup, and 9 times out of 10 they gonna hit, but they might be affected by 30. Maybe 30 want to buy right now, and these is showing sell, but 30 want to buy. I'm just not gonna take a sell on these because I know 30 can easily push them up. And if I do take a sell, it might be a quick little something. So US 30, right? We're gonna start off here first. I already have the markups for the major levels of liquidity from previous weeks. It still hasn't broken out of these four levels, hasn't made any highs, hasn't made any lows. When you look at these past weeks that I've really been trading my new strategy, or my new entry style, I should say, not a new strategy. Um, it's been within here, bro. It hasn't really done anything. No real big moves. It moves to catch, but nothing too crazy. So it's still stuck in here. We're gonna leave those the same. As far as the candles, we see they're kind of in a downtrend right now. Made a higher low, higher high last week. Now it's making a lower high, lower low this week, which could signal to more sales this week. All right, we go on to daily, and what do we see? Well, we had an aggressive push up off of this level. I actually was able to catch some sales out of this area down. Took profits right around this EMA here, which was a good exit on my part. I kind of figured it would. The day was coming to an end anyway. So looking at the daily candle, I mean, we're gonna do what we can with it. Again, I'm expecting sales. I don't expect this to just turn over immediately, but it could. We just gonna watch to see what happens next. Obviously, this is making highs on the daily. Now, when we look at the 4 hour time frame, right, this is a top-down analysis. If you don't know, we're gonna see the highs right here. We're gonna see the lows, and this is my retest. So this is kind of how I do my highs, lows, and retests. I use them as levels of entry. So I have my top blue box, that's my highs. I have this middle blue box, that's the retest of the previous lows. Then we have this lower blue box, which is the lows. Right. So currently it's in a seller's market, and we see it at the highs of this structure. So that's why I was able to look sales and catch the sales out in this wick, and then I took it out right near the bottom. And here I got a pretty good exit. So yeah, we see the inside bar candlestick pattern here, higher low, higher high. Now it's making a lower high, lower low. So this could potentially point toward a nice push down starting into next week, right? So first thing, US 30, we should be looking sales moving into next week. Why? Because the market's already in a downward trending market. And then two, besides the candlestick pattern just showing, two, we have the war in Israel and Iran. And I don't know much, but I doubt war is going to boost our economy, especially being that Trump just, attacked, and that might put fear into people to stop them from wanting to invest, right? Something along those lines. But people might be more fearful for their stocks. They might be pulling their money out, going to buy things with the money. I don't know, but I don't think stocks are going to do overly well this week, given the news of what Trump just did. So looking at the 4 hour, we're going to be looking sell. Kind of already have it marked out, so it's making it easy. I want to say I readjust my markets after every day. So even after the Friday, I come back in here and I readjust these. And then we look at the 1 hour. What do we see? We got our lows here, we got our highs here, and then we got the retest of the previous highs here. So the 1 hour's up, the 4 hours down. So I'm not really going to be too much tripping. Like on the 4 hour, it's kind of hard because I have all these big ass zones here. So that's going to make it a little difficult. So I might just follow the 1 hour because I like to be very precise with my entries. And what I'm saying is that I can enter anywhere inside these blue boxes for a sell, but I can also enter anywhere inside these orange boxes for a buy. So what I might just do, right, if this gets back up to these highs, that's going to confirm this maybe is a potential double top. Then if it breaks under it, I'll look from sales from there. Or if it gets back up to these highs in the 4 hour, I might just go back up to this 1 hour high in this 4 hour level. And I might just look for the 15 minutes, start making lows, and then go with my move from there. So more than likely, I'm going to be looking sales. I'm just going to be figuring out how I want to actually execute on these sales. But this is all area for sales. So we just need a perfect entry, not a perfect entry. We just need a good entry, right? So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, all right, I want to trade US 30 this week, this is a great opportunity to start finding sales anywhere inside this area. So next thing we're going to move over to is SPX. Now a lot of these again I had already marked up, probably just US 30 though, because I know I'd be on that heavy. Again, had a lot of good moves on a lot of these pairs last week. As you see on the weekly, lower high, lower low could be potentially pointing toward a downward move, or this could just be a pullback before it continues to buy up, but we're going to have to see. Daily, we see it make highs, higher low, higher high, but again, hitting this level of liquidity and may just want to tap it and then continue to fall. Candlesticks are showing sell, even whether it's a pullback or an actual move. I do believe it's just a pullback though, and we potentially could see this move reject from this level and make a play back down to these lows, where previously it wicked out here and pushed the market up to these highs. So now that it's hitting these highs again, I'm expecting it to move back down to these lows. Now, if I'm expecting it to move back down to these lows, that means when it gets up to these highs, I can look for entries on the sell, or being that it already touched these highs, I can assume that the market may want to continue to push down, meaning that I can start to look for sell entries anywhere inside this area as well. So that's just the daily analysis on the 4 hour. As we can see, we had the previous highs, the previous lows. As we can see, hasn't broken these lows for more than 2 candles. Therefore, it's still being respected. Hasn't broken these highs at all, nor has it tested it. So, being that this isn't a downwards market, and I'm not considering any of these lower highs. Why? Because they didn't come from previous equal low or a new low. What do I mean by that? So if this would have dropped down here, again, I'm not trying to make this a lesson, more of just a weekly analysis. We can make better videos, but if this came down to these lows and then came up to these highs, I'll consider this a lower high after it pushed back down. But being that it didn't, it never made a lower low, nor did it make equal lows, so it can't be a lower high. So the previous point that led from a previous point of lower low to a lower high to now a lower low, why, or an equal low, because it finished right in the same level. This didn't push the market down from this previous level here. And now let me not. I'm getting too deep. My bad. That's gonna be for a separate video where I can actually break it down more in depth. But as we can see, we have the lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and then we have it down in the lows. So on the 4 hour, obviously we're looking for sell, and it's obviously hitting this level of liquidity right here. I did end up taking sales inside this area last week, but I just got into it too early, and obviously it still went down. I just didn't, my entry wasn't on point like I thought it would be. But I'm not mad at it. It still did what I thought. I just have to work on my entry better. So on the 1 hour, as we can see, we have the lows, we have highs up here. Bang. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, I am. All right, so we got lows, we got highs, and then we got the retest of the previous highs, I want to say right here. So we got low, actually. No, this is the retest right here. All right, that's the retest. And then we have it come back down here. It did not respect the retest. It came back down to the lows. So as of right now, we can see this potentially buy back up in here. We can also see a head and shoulders pattern play out and have it fall. I know one thing for a fact, this is down on the 4 hour lows, so I wouldn't really want to try to sell through this level. But if it gets back up to these highs and shows me something, I may look for sales. If it breaks below this 1 hour here, I may look for sales, but taking it very cautiously because it will be in the 4 hour lows. The one thing that'll give me confidence for it is the simple fact that we have this point here that led down to here. Then we have this point here that led down to here. And now we have this point that if it does drop down into the blue box, will lead down into here. That's 3 consecutive pushes down, kind of making it a downward triangle, and it's squeezing onto the zone. So more than likely, there's a good chance that it could break. But will I take the sell there? You know, it all depends on the situation. Worst case scenario, I'll just wait because, you know, it's better preserving your money waiting for a better setup than to take some bullshit and lose. And we all know that because we've all been there. All right, so this is basically my analysis here. We have the 4 hour highs and lows. We have it overall in the seller's market, hitting a seller's level. The 1 hour is up. We can wait for the 1 hour to cross over, or we can just look to start taking sales at this purple line, which is an area of liquidity, or at this orange box up here, which will be hitting the trend line, and is also an area where we could potentially see it move down from. Now on to the last pair, which is NAS. All right, kind of the same thing. They both look very similar. We have the highs, we have the lows. Highs, lows, lower high. If this gets back down to the lows, if it does not get back down to the lows, this is not a lower high. Then obviously we're looking sales on here. This is an area where we can sell from. Again, all we're looking for, once we have our 4 hour momentum, our 4 hour directional bias, all the trades we look for are going to be with the 4-hour directional bias. Now, there's going to be times where I go against it because there are some good trade setups against it. But if you're a beginner, you shouldn't go against it at all. You should just say, you know what, the 4 hours this way and go with it. Because 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty correct on the direction. I'm pretty correct on the levels and areas. You just have to be good on your entries as well, which I've been working on. I've been getting, honestly, a whole lot better, 100 times better. So, again, seller's market on the 4 hour, on the 1 hour, as we can see, we had lower high. Yeah, we had a lower high here, lower low. It never broke these lows for more than 2 candles, so I'm not going to adjust my 1 hour levels as of right now. So the only things that I can really do here is wait for it to either get up to these highs, which is a trade I missed last week right here. I should have caught this trade for a sell. I just wasn't looking at NAS at all because I didn't think it was going to do anything. I didn't like it as much. But I didn't know it was actually going to reach this higher box. If I knew it was going to reach, I would have been watching it. But I didn't believe it could. So we're going to be looking for sales at this blue box, at this purple level, and then underneath this blue box here. And, that's basically the weekly analysis. I am going to be looking outside of the 3K to 100K video. I'm going to also be looking to drop a basics video. I know I have a lot of new people starting to join into the videos, starting to subscribe, and they just want to understand the basics because they're looking to get into investing as well, whether it be in stocks, currencies, crypto. I'm going to drop a basics video on that, explaining how you can get into what I do, and then even briefly brushing past some other options. And if you want me to go more in depth on those other options, then I can do that as well if you just let me know in the comments or whatever it may be. But until next time, I'll see you. I hope y'all have a great week in the charts. Have fun, man, and be patient with this. Don't try to, the worst thing you could do in this market is try to rush it, right? If your setup is not there, do not take a trade. The only thing you're going to do is take a hit on your account, and then you're taking a hit on your mindset, not only because you lost the trade, but now you have the emotions that come with losing a trade. It's like, oh man, I lost a trade. My dumb ass shouldn't have did this, or my trade strategy don't work. Now you're more hesitant to take another setup that is good, but since you took some bullshit previously, you're second guessing yourself and you don't really know what to do with it. So be patient, take your setup, and man, when you make the money, just make the money. Everything's gonna compound. It's gonna take time, but it's gonna compound. Compound wins add up so much and you don't even understand. If you just stopped losing and just kept your winners, you would see how fast your account would build. But since you can't control your little brain, it's enough to not trade that day because it's like, man, that dopamine of trading. Because you can't do that. Now you're taking these stupid ass losses, which got you going back and forth playing ping pong with your account balance. You've been break even. You got to learn to be patient and be confident in what you're looking for. And until then, I'm going to see y'all next week. Catch me in my shorts for sure.